High degree of leverage can work against you as well as for you. Before deciding to invest in foreign exchange, you should be careful to consider your investment objectives, level of experience, and risk appetite. The possibility exists that you could sustain a loss of some or all of your initial investment, and therefore you should not invest money that you cannot afford to lose. You should be aware of all the risks associated with the foreign exchange trading and seek advice from an independent financial advisor if you have any doubts. This is a live trade room. It's for educational purposes only. No financial advice or recommendations will be provided. Any trade taken during this live session is not a recommendation or a suggestion that you should also do the same. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Do not trade money that you cannot afford to lose. Before trading live, always operate with a written trade plan that identifies rules for entry, exit, targets, and risk management. And having said that, let me go over to the Aussie US chart. And we will start sharing that screen. And here we are. We are at this right now. It just came into our entry to sell zone, and it's right now, it went right in. Now it's coming back out again. So we still have another little shot at this right now, but right now we had a nice little drop into the zone. I'll redraw the zone here so everybody can see it, but we're right now looking right at the 71.7, the 0.7179 area. And you can see it just bounced right off the exponential 62 on the 5-minute chart. And we'll see if it's going to be able to take that or not. I drew the wedge looking at a 15-minute chart. Sorry if I have to go a little bit fast, but this trade was alerted at 7:30, and we don't have a lot of time here if it's going to break. So what we did was we had the alert was here at 7:30, and it was an ascending wedge. So I looked for 3 hits on the lower part and looked for somewhat of a sloping upward slope on the upward trend. So I started my A here. I brought the B back to the next significant pivot high. Tucked the C in as close as I could to where the alert was, and then the D was right about just a slight uphill slide from the B to the D. So that formed my wedge right here. Went over to the 1-minute chart, and I fine-tuned it to try to get as tight as I could. And my C and D are right here. You can see it was going flat before the alert, so there really wasn't a lot of activity there. So there wasn't a lot to go on other than this upper level where we drew the BD trend line. I'm going to slide this over here just a little bit. And we had kind of a near hit here. Here's the D, slight sloping upward. Primarily looking at the A, here was the anchor, here was the hit, here was the hit before the alert. And one thing I wanted you to take notice is that with this, when I drew this white box area up here, I was looking at this as being a trap, and it pretty much did just that. It came up past the D, closed above it, went right up into this trap area, and then it decided to fall back down again. So right now it's still trading inside the wedge zone, and it's still anybody's guess which way it's going to go. It did have and it just kind of did a little whipsaw right up into that area, came right down, whipsawed into here, and right now it's trading inside a range of about 10 pips. So it's a pretty tight range. It's starting to get a little bit tighter, as you can see from the D to the C area. It was a little bit more than that, and it's just getting tighter and tighter. And so there's the D. Oops, where is it? Here's where the D anchored, and then the C, and that was, again, it's only about 10. It's only about 10 pip range. So it's hard to say which way this thing's going to go. Looking at this from a higher time frame, as I go over to my 15-minute chart, if you can see, this is that's a possible trap. And the reason why I did that, why I called that, is that if I was looking at this area right here where there was a nice drop, there's a wick, no wick at all, and I'll take this thing all the way over here. And this is the area where this thing has potential. It's got to get through this. There was a strong move down. It's paused a little bit right here, came back, retested the area somewhat, didn't get all the way up into it, and it fell back down again. And so all of a sudden, here's another area where it came up near that area, couldn't break through. Came up, just tagged into this area. And now if it can break through that, then it's a possibility that once it breaks through, then this is the next level it's going to be looking at, and that's going to be the 7207 area. And we'll see if it comes up. And but this with this with this wedge, it was a rather steep trend line up here, so it doesn't take much to break, and still not really go anywhere. It still has to kind of get through the C area before it's going to. So this area is still an area of significance to us. So even if it breaks, it still has, it only has 3 pips before it starts hitting to this anchor right there. And so we're pretty much now we're going to have to wait. It was a New Zealand, U.S. New Zealand trade at, I think that was at 6, what time was that? That was around 6:30 or 6 o'clock this morning. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, New Zealand, U.S., that was at 5 o'clock this morning, East Coast time. That was about 3 hours ago. I wasn't able to take that trade. And let me see what else we have here. There's Christine. Good morning, Christine. And yes, I will promote you to our little room here. I have Christine and Eva are here helping me out here while Brian's back in school, and Matt's probably home with the baby, I'm guessing.
Matt's on paternity duty.
Yeah, Matt's on paternity duty. And so right now we pretty much have, it's still inside the wedge. There really is nothing to hang our hat on with this. And right now it's looking, the fact that we had on our 15-minute chart, we have our exponential 62 is below. Right now it's looking like all the moving averages are in the direction for it to break to the upside. We'll see what it does. Like I said, it starts to get through this little area right in here, this little white box area. I said if it can break through that. I tried doing a couple times to get through that area, still couldn't do it. So we'll see if it breaks through. Then so we're looking at this area up here, and if we can get the break of the wedge, our first target is going to be pretty much, we have almost 19 pips to the upside on that if it can break through there.
Wouldn't that be nice? First thing in the morning.
Yeah, nice. It could be a nice trade. At least we have an alert right about the time before. Well, this is, like I said, this is a half hour old, but a lot of times it still takes a few 30 minutes or sometimes even longer than that to develop into to the trade. Again, we're just waiting for it to break out. It said it did give us a head fake here. It gave us a head fake up here. This one didn't close out above. This one actually had a 15-minute close, and now it's a pullback up in this area. We do have a little bit of a lower high, and there was no wick at all on this 15-minute candle. It just went right on, closed low, and then went shot straight up again. On a 15-minute chart, again, it's testing this area right in here.
Al, there was also a descending U.S. yen at 7:30. Did you happen to look at that? I didn't even notice that one.
I did not look at that. I didn't even see that one yet.
I'm reluctant to kind of leave this one at the moment.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to let that one slide for right now, unless someone's looking at it for we're just going to just take one at a time here as they come. And one thing about trading is it's a game of patience, a game of probability, and even let's say this being a live trade room, we just have to understand that we just wait for the alerts, and then when we get them, we just have to be patient for them to break and to give us the signals that we're looking for, and then take the trade. Trying to take this thing inside the wedge still can be kind of risky. I mean, sometimes you can get a little better entries, but it's still a risk because it's still getting lower highs and higher lows, and you're not quite sure which way it wants to break. And that's one reason why we just give it time to settle in. It actually has a little bit more room to the downside as far as a pip value goes. And that still has to get through the C area as it slides on, as this trend line goes into the ascending mode. It's getting further and further away from this C, but once it breaks, then you have a little bit more range to your C. The closer it is to the wedge alert, the less room you really have to get your first target profit or to see if it's going to break this area.
I'm just having a quick look at that USD yen.
Okay, yeah, let us know if you see anything.
I'll let you know. I'm just setting up the triangle. It looks like it's kind of still in the middle of the red wedge.
Okay.
It's a bit of ranging.
Okay, this thing looks like it wants to break to the downside, and it looks like it could have some momentum to the downside. I have 3 levels over here on my 15-minute chart. These are where the pivots were. So if it can break through the C, this would be the next area. We do have a green fib line right here. That's on a 15-minute chart, so that's a very significant level. So if we can get this break here, we can be all the way down, looking down. That could get us our 7 pips to the green line. We probably would get a little bit of a bounce off of that. And we'll see what happens here.
Excuse me.
Yeah, yes, Christine.
Beach Panda would like to know, are there any specific videos showing how to draw the Hawkeye wedges, ascending and descending, and all the anchor points with the triangle tool with Trading View?
Yeah, actually, if you could look through we record all these sessions, and you can just go back through all the sessions. You can see how we explain how we draw them, what we were looking for. It's all in those recordings. And then just keep coming here in the morning, and once we get a little bit more time, I'll go through the process a little bit slower once we get out of this. Once this trade materializes, I'll go back and I'll redraw the wedge to show you how we did it. But it isn't all the recording. Every trade we take in this is recorded. At least it should be anyway. We try to record them. All right, right now it's coming right down into, it's breaking the wedge. We want to see a red candle close. I'd like to see a little bit of a blue candle wick up, just enough to, usually when a candle closes, it usually reverses back up a little bit into, just to wick up a little bit, and then it drops back down. So we have right now it's looking like it's, this is our 2 pip zone that we look for. I'd like to see this thing pull back just a little bit, at least, or maybe even touch the wedge. We'll see how this candle closes. So right now, anytime in this area, you can take this trade. It's a question of where you want to try and get your entry. I mean, you could take it off. I usually don't, when it just barely closes on the wedge. I don't usually like taking it right then, because a lot of times what happens is, as you can see here, it's like it went down, came back, and went all the way back deep again. And I think that could have been where the head fake was, where it comes in, gets everybody in, comes back, takes everybody, stop out. Now it's coming back in to go for the run. We do have a little bit of a trend line coming down from this direction. There's our blue candle that we're looking for, staggering the wedge. And if this candle closes just, once this thing goes back into the, once we get a red candle on this, and we can take this trade. We'll take a look, wait for the candle to close. Now it's up inside the wedge again. All of our moving averages are in the right direction on this one. Although we still have, it still keeps on bouncing off this 62 on the 5-minute. And we also know we have the 62 down here on the 15-minute all the way down. So even though the moving averages are starting to turn, it's still kind of nothing. They're still not all aligned correctly.
Yeah, it's back in the wedge on the 15.
Yeah, back on the wedge. This is why you try and wait for this 1-minute candle to close. You can see where it had a nice little, it came down with a pretty strong move, closed below, had a wick, it bounced right off the 2-pip mark, and then came right back up into the wedge again. This is all subjective as to where you want to try and get in. I mean, you still have the fact that the whole wedge area is only right now, it's probably about 9 pips. You can still have your stop on the other side of the wedge and you can still be okay. And you can see where this one didn't come all the way up. We do have a little bit of a trend line developing. From up here where it came up in a short tilt, where I said it could be a trap. We do have a little bit of a trend line developing. Now, as long as it doesn't, if you did get in down here, I would not be too concerned until it closed above this trend line, just like it did, like we have it close below this trend line on the wedge.
Well, the US yen is still in the middle of the wedge, so we might even be able to hit that one if things go well.
Now, one thing I don't like about this right now is that the Aussie showing the spread of 4 on the 15-minute chart. The Aussie showing strength. The Aussie is the first currency of the pair. I'm going to take this off. I'm not going to take this trade just yet. Let's see what happens here. It's having a hard time getting through the 62 on this 5-minute chart. And again, all of our moving averages on the 15-minute chart are all in the right direction for it to break to the upside. And all of our moving averages on our 5-minute chart are all in the right direction for it to go long. So it came up and tested this area before. Let's see if it's going to test it again. No, it looks like a lot of lines in here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these off here just so you can keep an eye on it. Here's our green line. Here's our 2-minute 2-pip zone from the breakout from the top of the wedge to the zone where we're looking for it to come into, close, give us our blue candle, and then break up to the outside. I said if it could break through this zone right here, and it's been challenged a couple times, if it can break through that, here's our next target up here at the 7208 area. All of our RSIs are starting to develop into out of the 60-40 range, pointing upward. And we'll see if we can get the break. I want to see a break above this blue candle, get a close above this blue candle right over in here.
Did you say that was a 19 pip run from there?
Yeah, if it goes if it can break through this, the trap area that I pointed out, we're looking at about 19 pips from the wedge, first break of the wedge up here. That's about 19 pips. We'll get some fib zones up here. We have blue fib line there, and we have a couple. We should have a couple up. This will be the first target. This will be around the second. Here's our blue line. So we usually try to go from blue line. If it breaks through this, here's our 2-minute support resistance line. If it can break through that, then it could be looking very possible to get all the way up to this area. This also get through this area right in here. This is a significant area to be looking at.
Excuse me, Al, you have another question?
Yes.
Beach Panda would like to know, prior to the phase 2 release from AP, there was a mention of all the indicators being used in Hawkeye, Hull, RCS, MS, MRSI, etc., being available to IRIS subscribers. Any update?
Yes, there is an update, and right now where we are, I need to get with the developers, tell them what is being offered to them, and then they just have to say yes or no and sign the deal, and we'll be on our way. So we're getting, I think we're getting very close. We finally got a hold of Anthony. Anthony was one of the developers of the RCS tool. He had a death in his family last week, and so we had a hard time getting a hold of him. But last word is that I'll be talking to them this week, and we'll hopefully get this thing up and running here.
Great.
As long as everybody's in agreement to what's being offered. And I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think it's going to be it'll be a doable thing. So I'm pretty optimistic about it, and we're looking forward to allowing this stuff to be available to everybody. So right now we're still here. We're at the we have our blue candle. Here's our blue candle, although we didn't get the close. And now it's coming back and take another peek at it, I guess you could say. But all the moving averages are still in the right direction to go long. But we still need to get through this little trap area. It still keeps fighting this. I still like to see it close above this. Let me change the color on this here a little bit. Let's see, where is my setting here on this one? Well, that's a trend line. I don't want that anyway. That's why. I want to see a blue candle close above this point right here. That is starting to, well, it was basing here a little bit. Let's see if we can get a couple blue candles or red candle. Then we get a nice blue candle. We may be off and running. I'll get my chart set up to go. I'm looking at probably taking this thing long. And if we can get a blue candle close above that dotted blue line, I'll just do a market order to get into it.
The blue line or the dotted yellow?
The dotted yellow. Yeah, we see a blue candle close above this dotted yellow line inside our range here. Still didn't get the close. It is basing here a little bit right in here. It's having a little bit of a hard time getting through this area right in this, between these yellow dots. This is where it's basing right now, trying to break through. I said, this is the area that I designated as being a trap, so we'd be careful with this one. It still has to get through that little, there was a strong move down. This is the area where it paused on the way down before it came all the way down to here. Now it came up, it's coming up, it's retesting, but if it can break through that, then we have a good shot at going up a lot higher. It's still working at it.
Yep, we have the US yen is still trying to break out of the wedge as well.
Okay. I almost don't want to take the time to take a look at that right now, since this thing's, is that one breaking out to the upside or downside?
It's at the downside of the wedge. So I'm not sure, it just tested it and popped back up a little bit. So I'm looking at the 15, and now it's forming blue candles on the 5 and the 1 minute.
Yeah, see the US, the yen is, let me see where the yen is here. The yen is weak to the Aussie on the 50, on the 30, weak to the Aussie. Right now, the yen and the Aussie are still fairly weak. The US dollar isn't all that, on the US dollar is still the weakest on the 30-minute and the 15-minute pair. So that still gives a good cause for the this thing to break to the upside. The Aussie's still strong, not by a lot, but it's still stronger than the US dollar. That's probably one reason why it's struggling so much right now. As it keeps on bouncing back and forth between these wedge, inside the wedge, it just keeps getting stronger. It's just spooling up tighter and tighter and tighter until eventually it breaks. And so this is a significant line right here, this 7190 area. And then this is the next 7 pip target up right here at the next green line, which is the 97. Here's a nice, strong little move. Here's a nice, actually, here's a nice little flag pattern right here off the wedge.
US is a little more aggressive at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's only 1 minute chart. You'll see this flip on the pullbacks. As long as they can pull back, and as long as these can stay, these higher time frames, the 15 and the 5, can stay with the Aussie being stronger, then this is just a pullback. And then wait for it to flip back over again. I'm still looking at this just being a little pullback. I'm still looking at this thing to break to the upside. It seems the odds are in the favor of a breaking to the upside right now. These RSIs are still above the 40-60 range. It did have a little bit of a hook on the 15-minute. This one's coming down, testing the 89. Got the hook. When we get these back up above the 60 area, going up towards this next blue line, that'll be a good sign. You can see on this 1 minute chart, you can see it's forming its own little mini wedge right here. Here's like the flagpole, and here's a low, a high, a low, and there's our little trend right in here. Now it's recessing the lower wedge again. Let's see where we are on the other time frames. Again, we're still concerned about this 62 right here. I'm gonna take this off because it's gonna get too crowded. And these are some of the reasons why you try not to be too anxious to take the trade in the middle of the wedge. Because you see it just keeps bouncing off from one, a little bit lower highs. There's actually about an equal high right there. But as the wedge gets tighter and tighter to the end of the wedge, where the peak of the wedge is, it's usually an indication that things are going to start to break sooner than later. Take that off. It's looking like it, because we're not sure which way this thing is going to go. There we have the close inside the wedge. We have another red candle. Need to get a close below this area right in here. Got to close out below this blue candle right in that area. This is ready to take a sell on this. There's our blue candle. Let's see if it tests the wedge again. It did bounce right off again, right off that 62. You don't want to take a short trade with a blue candle. you want to wait for that candle to turn red. If this thing closes, and as soon as it next candle opens up, if it opens up to the downside, that'll be your red candle. Another blue candle.
And on the 15-minute, it popped right back into the wedge.
Yep, back right into the wedge. And you can see it's
It's going to go right to the peak of that wedge before it decides where it wants to go.
Yep.
Okay, and the US yen, it's still kind of doing the same thing.
Do we have any announcements? Looking at any news announcements today, Tuesday? Nothing major till 10 o'clock tonight. So that's
Mostly Aussie newsing. You know?
what's that?
I believe from last night, it was mostly Aussie news.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then, yeah.
Now let's see, it came right back up into the wedge, but couldn't hold it. So that means this trend line is starting to have some strength to it, which is the bottom of the wedge. That's a pretty strong rejection of that move up. This is a little stronger move up. This is a nice strong candle coming up into this area. Let's change this over to a buy position.
They're really battling it out. Holy cow.
Yeah, this one's this was not giving it up easy today, but
No.
when you get these types of battles like this, when it does break, it goes up pretty strong. I say we had that what I call that trap area. And it's just right, and that's really where these yellow dotted lines all are, right in that area. But once it can break through, like I said, it was where it stalled on the way down, and it's just retesting this whole area, seeing if it's going to break to the downside or break to the upside. Came right down to this level here, couldn't break below this blue candle, and is having a hard time breaking above this blue candle. So until it does, we just sit and wait. So it's now identified the range that's in, and it's only been trading in, let's see, about I'm going to say about 10 pip, okay, 12 pip range, 11 pip range. So once that breaks, I think you're going to see I think you see a potential of a nice little move. Usually the more it goes sideways like this and it breaks, the stronger the move to the up or downside is going to be. And it's about time for it to break through the bottom, or break up through this thing.
Excuse me, Al, you had just said that it's about time for it to break through the bottom now?
Oh, well, actually, about time to break through the top side is what I meant to say.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem.
Well, it's about time. But it still seems to be taking its sweet time here.
True, true.
So until it breaks, we just sit on our hands and not get too over anxious about taking the trade. You want that confirmation. Now, right now, we're still showing on our 3 time frames, the Aussie's still strong. If we can get a 3-point spread on this when it goes to make the break, that's a good sign that things are going to continue on. It's when it's going back and forth between 1 and 2 point spread that makes it a little bit tougher. Yes, I'm looking for a blue candle close above this top yellow line is what I'm looking for right now. But keep in mind this trap is right here at this where this white box is. Again, all the moving averages are in the right direction. We have the close above all of them on the 15-minute. We have a close above all the moving averages on the 5, and a close above all the moving averages on the 1 minute. 1 minute goes back and forth a lot faster, so you can't hold a lot of weight on that one. We're going to have a blue candle with 2 inside candles. Right now, this is an engulfing candle. You see all the red candles are right to the right of this blue candle are all within inside this candle. This is just all part of watching the price action and understanding what you're seeing when you see the different candle formations. This is try to understand what the prices are doing. You can see actually you can even take a little bit further. This blue candle right here hasn't been breached either. Everything is inside this blue candle right here. Well, this one broke out just a little bit to the top side. Right now everything is basing inside here. And you see that the lows are getting a little bit higher. The highs are getting a little bit lower. And there's our little doji candle right there. That's where where all the buyers and sellers are in equilibrium, right of this blue candle right in this area.
And it looks like the US yen is just ready to break out the bottom.
Let's take a look at this here.
No, it just kind of bounced back, but it's right there at the bottom of the wedge.
Here's the US yen. That wedge alert was at 7:30, is that correct?
That's right, it was a descending.
730 descending. That means it's going down from the top to the bottom. We're looking for a, there's the top. I'm looking for a pivot bottom, looking for the close to the wedge, to where the alert was. Bring it down to, see if I can find a trend. Here's my anchor, here's a hit, here's a hit. Now it's actually, it's already broken out the bottom here.
I drew my bottom flat.
Oh, you did?
Because there
Okay.
was nothing to tuck it into at the time.
Yeah, okay, and that makes sense. I usually like I prefer a flat bottom. It is starting to break out the bottom here. If it breaks out the bottom, that means the dollar is getting stronger. Or weaker, actually. And if it's getting weaker, so is the Aussie.
Yeah.
Let's see, where's the Aussie? It's still bouncing around there.
Still bouncing around. It's not got much room left, but it's still doing its thing. Now it's starting to move up toward the top.
Most times these are working somewhat in conjunction with each other here.
Yeah.
Get something going on this side here. Take a look at this. This one's starting to break out.
Which one? The
the yen is starting to break out.
Oh, the yen, yeah. I'm getting ready for it too. You just never know.
And let's see where our targets may be on this one. Let's check out the Aussie first before we get too carried away. Whoop, there he goes. The Aussie's starting to do the same thing. It's all happening at the same time. Basically, the dollar is getting weaker on both those pairs. Still didn't get to close above the dotted lines there. Let's draw this one a little bit more on the US yen. Let's take a little closer look at that one. Here's a significant low before the, here's our hit. And we got, this is an anchor right there. So we got to get through this one. It's got a lot of wicks to get through before, once it breaks through, it's got a lot of wicks to get through before it gets down to anything significant, down all the way down to this area.
Not coming.
Oh boy, the Aussie just took a big, the Aussie's going short.
Crazy.
Welcome to trading. It still has to get through this area. Now it did break the wedge. It's still basically inside this whole area right in here. That means the dollar is starting to get stronger. They're keeping us busy as a day.
Making up for yesterday.
Yeah.
Al,
Yes.
are you waiting for the close below?
Yeah, actually right now this looks like
Not
this, yeah, on the Aussie right now this would be
Yeah.
a sell here on this one. Yep. This would be a time. This would be the time to sell it.
Okay.
Thanks for pointing that one out. I got too many things going on right now.
That's
I'm
okay.
going to sell that one. That's starting to break to the downside. So dollar's getting stronger on that. And we'll see what happens here. We'll just keep an eye on the U.S., on the Aussie U.S. right now.
US yen is still playing in the wedge right now.
Yep. This was a nice little drop. It's basing right here, and it stayed below, right now. It stayed outside the wedge this time. Right, nice red candle came down, closed below our two period area. Still trying to get through this part right here. So this is a little bit still a problem. And we'll see what happens here.
I'm watching the 5 minute here on my screen, and it's just battling, but outside the wedge now. It's crazy today.
What I like about the U.S. yen is it's below all the moving averages. We got the crossovers for this thing to go short.
On the US yen?
Yeah.
I really need to get another monitor. I've got one monitor and I'm flipping back and forth.
Well, tomorrow I'm going to be on my laptop tomorrow. I'm going to be on the road. As soon as we get done here, I'll be on the road. And I'll be on my laptop for the next couple of days, unfortunately. As the U.S. yen goes more short, the Aussie, as the dollar gets stronger, gets weaker on the U.S. yen, it's probably going to get weaker on the Aussie as well, depending on where it is in the mix of things. Right now, it's showing a number 2. And it's sort of in between here. Yeah, this Aussie's still back up in the wedge again. This Aussie's not playing very nice today.
No, it's not.
Well, we are in this Aussie trade with because of this move down here. We'll just see if it just holds up.
This Aussie US is amazing to me how it can stay within the wedge that way, moving all the way up it.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, it's broken out a few times, but still maintain this. It's almost maintained this bottom trend line, which is our 2 pips outside of our wedge area, which I find is it just keeps on head faking it either way. It just can't quite decide which way it wants to go. And actually, bottom line is just going sideways right now, inside this area right here. So if I were to draw a white box around where it's been trading ever since the alert, it's trading inside this zone right here. So until it breaks out of that, you can either, you have a couple of choices. One, just sit on your hands, which is what I would recommend, or what I would suggest. Let's just say that. Or if it comes up here, well, the problem is when it comes up here, you're waiting for it to break out. When it comes down here, you're waiting for it to break out. In the meantime, just wait for it to break out. But you see it's starting to get a little bit. If I were to take this, our sell line, our area to sell, let's look at this lock, that's why. Unlock this. You can see it's still maintaining this area, right? Pretty much. And this is only about, let's see, 84 to 81. You're only looking at 3 pip range, and it's breaking out 3 pips and it's going back up again. That's not tradable. But so once it can break through, this is the next area. If it did break through this, but it didn't close below it. Once it closed below that, it still has this area down here. That's where my C is on this. Right now, the dollar is just trying to take position, see where it's fitting in the pack of the 8 currencies. It's just trying to figure out where it is. It's trying to get a little bit stronger on the, well, it's not really getting strong on anything right now.
Where is it on the 8?
On the yen, it's on the 50-minute chart, it's still weak to the yen by 3. On the Aussie pair, it's still weak to the Aussie by 2. So the yen is still, the dollar is still relatively weak, comparatively speaking. Now, if it's weak on the Aussie US, that means that it's would be breaking to the upside. If it's strong onto the Aussie US being the second currency of the pair, it would be, we would be wanting to go short with it. On the yen, it's just the opposite because the US dollar is the first currency of the pair on the US yen. Right back to where our entry was on this Aussie US. Let's see if we can get it breaking out of this box. So we need to get, if we can break out of the box and get it closed below this yellow dotted line, we should be off to the races down to here. If not, if it goes back up to my break-even point, I think I'll just get out of this trade and see what happens. And let's see, the dollar is showing strength now on the 1-minute chart. Dollar is showing strength all around here right now. More strength. If we look at our RCS tool, we have $6 on a 3. That's a strong move to the dollar strength to be the downside on this one. And it's a 6 and a 5 on the US yen. So that's still kind of iffy there. It's looking to break to the upside of the wedge on the US yen. And we're getting to 907. So we'll be looking at another 20 minutes before the US market opens up. This thing's finally starting to break down. This one's been challenging today.
A little bit.
Let's see where our 7 pips are on this. 7, we're going to make this 7 pips here. It's almost there. Let's see if we can take the profit on this one. See where our fib lines are. We got a blue one down here. This is usually when they go sideways for so long, usually the breakdown is usually goes, usually gets to be a fairly decent run. We did get the close before below that yellow line that I was telling you about. That's a good thing. All our RSIs are still pointing down, coming out of the 60-40 range on the 15. It's already out on the 5 and got a little bit of a hook on the 1 minute. We're not going to let this thing go too far against us. We have some profit in here. I'm not going to wait too long to take my profit.
Excuse me, Al.
Yeah, Christine.
Somebody would like to know, I need to figure out how to place target prices based upon pips, but just made $3.10 on a 1/10 mini lot in demo, of course.
So the question was how to place the targets?
Yes. How to put TP, so I'm imagining it's target price.
Hang on just a second here. I'll try and address that one here. Let me take my, so this one took the profit on this one, so this one's done. It may still keep on going lower, which could be looking at taking this to the fib line down here. Yeah, I'll address that as soon as this trade's over. We'll address that question.
Of course, no problem.
And let's see, if you didn't take your profit now, you may want to be thinking about now. As long as if we don't get a close above this, this was the line, this dotted line that we have right here. This was where we had our C pivot low. It came down, we broke below it. Now the question is, if you get a close above that, you may want to be closing your trade out because that means it may be coming back up to retest the wedge. Right now, this was a significant price point. If it can stay below that, which right now is showing that it's trying to do so, this is on the 5-minute chart. We have another 4 minutes, almost 4 minutes to go before this candle closes. This thing still has the potential going down lower, but this would be the next target area right on this one. As we look from to the left, right, here's a candle with a wick. Come over here till you find where there's no more wicks. So this is basically the next zone that we're looking at right in here. Once it breaks that, which it hasn't closed below this point, then we're coming all the way over here and we're coming all the way down to this point. There's really nothing to stop it from. Once it closes below this, the next target is going to be pretty much down to this area right here, which is also right by our blue fib line. And then once it gets to this area, here's our wick, and here's our next body. So this would be the next zone that I'd be looking at before you're going to get. This is the origin of this whole move up here to the upside. And it looks like the yen is starting to break to the upside. And there's our blue fib line right there. It's coming right down into this area. I do have one more position open, and once I get down there, I'm going to close it out, like right about. Now's a good time to get rid of that. So I'm out of everything on this trade. The US yen is starting to take off. We'll show you what that's doing. This thing's breaking out of the wedge. And here's see, this is the A. This is the first mark where it needs to break through this. And then up here is where we have some wicks. And so this would be the next target area right up in this area. Really strong move to the upside. We have this area right here. Where's the C? Now we can get a close above. This is on a 15-minute chart. So once it can, if it can break through this, I'm not seeing a whole lot of area to stop it. If I look at a higher time frame and see where it is on a higher time frame, spread this out a little bit. I'll take this wedge off so we can see where our candles are. If we can get through this little area that we just marked out, this would be the next area of interest. It would be right over in this area right in here. And this is where it was. This is way back in the beginning of the month.
We have a new IRIS alert. Just came in.
We're getting busy morning this morning. Much busier than yesterday. This is going to be, and we're looking at 9:15, the New Zealand USD. That was the one that was a little bit earlier today.
Well, this one just came in now.
Yeah, the 9:15 New Zealand. Let's see if we can fix something up with that. Keep an eye on this US yen here in the meantime. Let's see, where is my USD? Find a chart for this.
It's almost identical to the Aussie USD.
Is it?
It looks like it.
Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand a lot of times.
Yeah.
Why is this? There it goes. It was taken. Cancel. New Zealand USD. Take all this stuff off this chart. And here's we're just going to clean up the chart. Start with a fresh one. 9:15. Here's the alert. And it was what was it? It was ascending.
It was ascending, yes.
So that means we're going to start from the low to the high. From low, use this pivot high, come back. I'm looking for 3 hits to where the alert was. Actually, it probably broke just before the alert. We'll have to go with this one, I guess. This is the bottom where the alert was. It's a little bit of ascending. It's coming in. So we started with the low, going to low to high, looking from the bottom. Then we just try and find a spot on the upper part where we get the wedge, where this is still going a little bit ascending there. That's okay. Move this thing over to tweak it. And tweak this thing over as close as we can on the 1 minute. Move this one over as close as we can. This is showing a descending pattern here. We're looking to see if it's going to break out of the bottom. We have our A all the way over this side. So it's basically going to have to, once it breaks out of the bottom, this AC range, we don't have our third hit here, which I don't like that particularly, but if we had this, move this one up, this was way before the alert, which means the alert would have already been broken before we ever got that. So I have to flatten this one out down to here, but we have to, but I'm going to respect this area up in here where the moving averages are. Let's see here. So we have, this is our wedge. We have our points. Now we're going to see where our targets are. I'm going to come back over here to my 15-minute chart. One thing I've been interested in doing is I've been seeing what my daily ranges are on a certain pair, and just seeing how it's where I'm looking at to see where this thing could possibly be going for the last week or so. This goes back to July. So basically for the month right now, it's trading within this range. So I like drawing a box. I just started doing this a little bit this past week. Right, this is my daily range box. And we see right now it's at the bottom of the range. So once it breaks this, we have all these wicks over here. Here's a wick, here's a wick, here's some more wicks. This keeps on coming on until we finally stop and we get to a wall. So I'm going to be using this as an area. For a target area. If it does break to the downside, I'd be using this as a target area. We have this wick, it came up, broke everything, retested it, and then took off, and now it's coming back and see if it's going to retest this area down here again. Go back to my 15-minute chart and see where we are in the scheme of things. So right now we're at the bottom of the main box, which was this one right here. We're all the way at the lowest 25% of this. If I were to draw a fib line from the top of the daily range to the bottom of the daily range, you can see we're in the bottom 25% of this range. Now the question is it going to continue? Is it going to go up and retest this area, which would be this area right here? I'll make this a different color. This would be my supply area. I'll make that red. Oops, right. Just go and lock this. And then we'll go and make this as our demand area. It's the bottom 25% of this range. And we make this green. And so right now it's kind of going sideways inside this lower 25%. Now the question is, will it break out the bottom to retest the bottom of the box and then go up, or is it going to break down and head on down to this area? So right now we're just going to be patient, wait and see in the meantime. I don't really like trading this pair this time of day particularly. Still keep that on that. And so here's our range, here's our wedge. And then you see if it breaks out the top of the wedge, it's breaking out this lower 25% area. And then we're looking at heading on up to the 3061.876. So right now it's at the bottom of that range. So we're going to see which way it's going to go. I'm more inclined to think it's going to break to the upside, which would also indicate dollar weakness. Right now, the dollar is stronger to the yen. Not by a lot, but still a little bit stronger to the yen. And it's for right now. With this one, we're just going to have to wait. Here's where the dollar is with the yen. Let's see where that looks. Here's where our alert was. And it's coming up into a zone that we were looking at as a possible turnaround point. Came right up to it, tagged it. And so we have a fib number just a little bit above that zone. redraw the wedge here. So we're on the 15-minute chart. I believe it was a descending wedge. Let me double sure I should got that. The Aussie Yen descending at 730 with the US yen. And so we have our wedge. We're going to draw from descending. So we're going to start here at the top. Find I'm looking for a trend from a low that will trend to catch a midpoint and then a pivot. So we want to look for an anchor. I'll try that and see how that works. Come over here to close to the wedge as I can. And so here's my anchor. Here's a hit. Here's another hit. Here's another hit. It broke to the downside, gave us a little head fake down here. And then it broke to the upside. Now it's looking at this zone right up here where it came up. Now it's retesting the bottom of the wedge, at the top of the wedge as it came on back down to it. Looking at a lower time frame, go to our 5-minute chart. I'll take these fibs off just to keep things cleaned up a little bit. There's the top. There's the top of it. That's the peak I wanted right there. We'll tweak that. Find out where the peak is on this one, the 5-minute. Anchor, a hit, third hit, broke down, comes back up, retest the wedge. And now we're in no man's land waiting to see what it's going to do. This was a nice strong move to the upside, came right up here, hit it. Now the question is if we have the strength. Dollar is still strong on the 5-minute by 4. Dollar is strong by 2, by 3 now, going from the strongest, almost to the strongest currency on the 15-minute. And if all this sounds a little fast and confusing, I'm sure it probably is if you're new to this game, but if you keep listening to this, you'll start getting understanding the lingo, you'll start understanding the patterns, and it'll start coming to you. It just takes a little time. It may seem a little bit overwhelming to anybody that's new, but just be patient with yourself and just give yourself a chance to sit back and absorb it. So right now we're really not sure what to do with this yen. Right now it broke the wedge, came up to an area that bounced off of, and now it's just pretty much going sideways inside this zone, this range right here. So we'll just have to be patient and just wait. See if we have some fib lines that need to be addressed. Could see it come up here to the blue one. Right now it's in between the two blue, which is about I think that's about 11 pip range, I believe, from the blue to the blue. Yeah, about 11 pips. So right now it broke this area, came back, retested it, and now we're waiting to see what it's going to do. So right now it's trading inside this range right in here.
Al, maybe we revisit whosever question it was, because they put anonymous.
That was a question about finding the targets. Was that right?
Yeah, the take profit, and it was on the off the US.
Okay. Yeah, basically what we do, why is this thing not showing up on there? Maybe it's just having to propagate here. There it goes. It just takes a little while. Okay, so I'm just going to take all this stuff off of here right now. And so we had the break we finally got the break. It was right around in this area where we finally got the break. It came down. Now, when we go to take the profits, we go for 7 pip target is what we go for. And the reason for that is oftentimes you have about a 1 to 2 pip spread. We're going for 7 pips, so we're trying to get our 5 pip target, 5 pips of profit out of the move. So in this case, we had a 7:30 alert. I'll take this right from the get-go here. Here's where the alert was. I'll put it on a 15-minute chart. Turn this off here. And it was at 7:30, it was an ascending wedge on the Aussie US. So ascending means we're going to start low to high. So I'm looking to see where the last significant pivot low was, where the last significant pivot high was before the alert, and it's going to be ascending. So I'm going to start with my triangle tool down here at the bottom for the A, bring it up here to the B, bring it to the next. What I'm looking to see is being try to tuck this in as close to the wedge as I can, and then make it like that. Now these I'm seeing these are all breached, so I have a choice. I can either take it like this, and there I get my anchor, a hit, so that's good. But then we have, as the steeper this goes, the more likely you are to get whipsawed because it still has to come through this part. Now so anyway, we had our wedge. It whipsawed us back and forth quite a bit during that period of time. But finally, we finally got the break, and we actually got the break pretty much down. Let's see if I were to bring this one up, a little bit closer, and then we have our target. The targets are somewhat subjective here. And so I'm looking for where the pivot points are. So, but once we get into the trade, originally what we had our wedge, we had our 2 pip area below where the wedge alert was. Just a second here. Yeah, so we have this, we put a parallel line, or a trend line right along where the bottom of the wedge was, and we're going to pull this off 2 pips. Right about there. And you can see where we had some hits, it came back up, retested, came back up. Finally, we got the break. Once we got the break, that's when we actually start to measure where we get into the trade. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. You can measure from where the wedge was broken. In this case, it was actually broken on this 2 pip line area. But if you get into the trade, if you do a market order right here, you're not going to be filled until you're down below. So right about here is where you probably would have expected to be filled. From that point, you're looking at, we're shooting for our 7 pips. Now, what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see where the target is. This is a target. I like to see, before I even take the trade, I'd like to know that I have the ability to get at least 7 pips to where my first target point is, which is this line. Now, there's a couple different ways we can do that. We can do it with these fib lines, and you'll see that these are 7 pips apart. Well, if you get in between the two, your next target is to get the 7 pips, like from this point to this point. Oh, actually, that's 21 pips. I'm on a 5-minute chart. Disregard that. Let me put this on 2-minute lines here. And this is where this tool kind of comes in handy, is that these lines become 7 pips apart. And if you got, like, here's the line, here's the line. So this is 7 pips. So we took the trade in between the two. So we're really going to be looking at 7 pips from where you get in. And there's another tool we have down here, which is for a position, and you can just say, okay, if I got in here, and I'm going to make 7 pips on either side of that, which I think is where this thing's already set to. Yeah, it's already set. So if you get in here, here's where your first 7 pips are. If you're going to go for 15 pips, then you could take it down to. But I usually look and see where my target is, I'm looking for a bounce. I'm looking for a bounce off of this, or I'm looking for a bounce off of one of these fib lines. But generally speaking, is we take the trade and we measure 7 pips for a target, the first target. And as you get better and as you get more used to this, you can start going for bigger runs. But for the most part, we're going for 7 pips. If you can get 7 pips once a day with 2% of your account, you'll become very successful trading the foreign exchange market. But usually, wherever you enter in, wherever you get filled, we look for 7 pips below, 7 pips above. But we're also looking at an area where it makes sense to where you're going to expect to bounce. I expect to bounce off of this because this was a significant pivot that drove the price back up. So there were some buyers down in this area. I don't know if does that answer your question? Who was it that asked the question?
Anonymous. Anonymous attendee. Al, are we off at 9:30?
We are taking a break at 9:15, which is already past the break time, and we're going till 10:15 today.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, today we go to 10:15.
Okay.
And we can see that this one is actually still breaking down and is still making some new. You can see right here where this is a pivot, came right down, stopped right there, gave us a blue candle. Now the question is if this is going to hold. If this one holds, this probably can come up and retest this blue line. If it doesn't hold, if we look and see where our wicks are, again, here's our wicks. It's a series of wicks. Come over here until you get to move this over till you get to a body of a candle, and then you move it down, and that's your next target area. And if you don't see any more wicks, you can keep on going to all the way down till you get to some more wicks, and then here's the bottom right there. So we had a nice move up, came back, tested. This was our down move. Blue candle came up, closed above several of these red candles, came back, retested, and then took off again. Came back, retested, took off again. So this area right now is significant because it's been tested twice. And now it's being tested the third time. And our Japanese yen is going strong too, where the dollar is strong to the yen. And this thing is strong to the Aussie. So the dollar is regaining some of its strength back again. This was a nice. This is one of we basically took our target out. We got our 7 pips right here. It would have given us another 15 pips, but we don't care. I mean, it's like it's always nice to get those extra pips. But again, if you can just get your 7 pips a day, then go walk away and do something else for the day, you'll become very successful. But sometimes you can see where we had to be patient with it. It kept trying to suck us in, take us out, take us in, get us out. You just had to be patient for that. You want to see those breaks below these certain levels. Once we had this nice strong move down below my sell zone, after all these violations, I was okay just moving this thing down just a little bit until I got a nice clean break. And that's pretty much where we got into this trade. And if we look at our US yen trade, you can see where this is starting to just skyrocket up. Let's look at our 15-minute chart and see where some of our targets may be. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to go to a higher time frame to see if I can find out where this thing's bouncing here. So here was a pivot high. I'm just going to take this part off. So this is on a 3-hour chart, and this can see where there was a nice big pivot high, came up, rejected, came up, rejected. I say once it gets up to this area, we could probably expect maybe another reject to this. But if coming over to where these wicks are, here's the wick, come all the way over to where the wicks are. Here's the body of the candle here, and we can make another to the top of the wick. And you can see that this is where this thing came up, rejected it, and now it's coming up to make another test to see if this thing, if it's going to break this. Here's the top of the wick, here's the body of the next candle, and actually right here you have a little bit of a wick, wick over wick. It came down, wick down, came back up, made a little wick, and then came back down again. These two, this was a good test, knowing that there's some sellers up in this area, but the buyers were able to drive it all the way up into this area. So this is significant. And we'll see what it can do. Go to a 1 hour chart and see if there's anything that tells us. Now over here we have, here's our current candle. Here's where it tested it. And right here is where we had a blue candle, came up. So this zone right here on the 1 hour chart is significant. That's right where we're at right now with this pair. Here's the top of the wick. Here's the body. And this is our zone. Knowing that this is the upper, this is the highest time, this is the higher time frame area right in here. And if we look at our fib charts, and we put this on a 15-minute chart, and we see that we have a blue supply zone right here on a 15-minute, and that's a very strong area to be looking at.
Hindle's asked a question here, Al.
Yes, Hindle.
It says, so when it breaks the entry line, are you not waiting for the pullback before entering?
You're talking about the entry line of the wedge, Hindle? Yeah, once it breaks the wedge, we have our little zone that we're looking at. Now, this is going to be a little bit. I'm not looking to go long with this. I'm looking for maybe to, if I'm already long, I'm looking to be getting out up in this area. But if you're talking about the wedge, yeah, once it breaks the wedge, once you have the break of the wedge, you want to see it pull back just a little bit, just because you don't want to. You want to see a little bit of a wick on some of this. Well, let me draw the wedge here. Let's just draw a simulated wedge that's for all practical purposes. Say we have this, and we have the break. So once we had the break, now this is on a 15-minute chart. So basically, remember, we're looking at a 1-minute chart for these things. So I come over here to my 1-minute chart. Take these all off so we don't get that confused. Here was you can see, like right here was the, let's say the wedge alert was down here. We came up, we had the break. And then we had a candle that closed. I don't know if you can see this here. Let me just move this over just a little bit. We had the candle that closed above it. Hang on a second, I gotta do something here. It closed above it. It just barely closed, but wicked up, but still closed. This area is still, you've got blue candles, but I'm still waiting for that red candle pullback. Now, once this thing closed, you had this little wick right here off this blue candle. When it closed, you probably had a red candle, so you could have gotten in right at this point. Right in over here. So this candle closed blue. Let me expand this out a little bit. This candle closed blue, had another blue candle. You're still inside probably your 2 pip zone. But once this one closed, this one turned red. So right when that thing turned red, as soon as it turned blue again, you could gotten into trade right here. You're still within your 2 point. Now, once it goes back in, now you have to decide how far deep back into the wedge you want to go before you say that's too much. I would be looking at find out where our zone is to where I want to be. That I say here's where I don't want it to get below this area, so I would probably put a stop zone right around in this area, saying okay, if it gets past this area right here, if it can break this box. See if I can make this. If it can break this box in here, all right, I'm out of the trade. As long as it can only, if it tested, that's one thing. And that's actually what it did, is came up, closed this outside the wedge, but it was a big wick. Gave you another blue candle, still making you feel pretty good about the trade. But now you had the red candle that came in, and this blue candle turned red first, then turned blue, you're in the trade. I was just thinking it's going to keep on going up. Well, but now from another red candle, back into the wedge. All right, you're already committed into the trade. So we just say, okay, where's my pain point? And you can say, okay, where's my stop? If I got in right here, there's my 9 pip stop at the bottom of this. I'd probably give it 10 pips on this in this particular case. It came back up, went back up into the wedge, blue candle followed by red candle, big blue candle. Then you're off and running. I don't know if does that answer your question?
Yes, they wrote yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm just kind of looking at this US yen here to see how we're doing with this. Came right up into that area. Rejected it. Now the question is it going to come back up? Is it still strong enough to penetrate it again? And that we don't know. That's a pretty strong move on the yen. Been doing so much talking this morning, I haven't even had a chance to finish my coffee.
It's probably ice cold by now.
No, actually, it's rather hot because I have a little hot plate here.
You cheat, Al.
Yeah, I do.
No, you've been working hard this morning.
It's been a busy morning this morning. Much different than yesterday.
Jeez. Yeah.
Rajiv would like us to check the New Zealand US.
New Zealand USD. Let's see where we're at with that. I don't know why this thing's taking so. I don't know why this thing takes so long to propagate here.
Maybe you have so many tabs open. I know mine.
Yeah, I didn't usually have that problem, but obviously I'm having that problem today with it. There it goes. All right. Well, it's still inside our. Let's see. Here is our wedge. Okay. It looks like it's starting to try and break out the bottom here. Again, let's see, where's the dollar strength? Let's see, where's our dollar? Dollar is still strong, so we'd be looking to the short side. It is breaking out of the bottom. This is a potential trade here.
Yeah.
Here's where the wedge was. Thank you, Regime. And we have all moving averages are in the right direction on that. And we had the break of the wedge. Let me move this down just a little bit more just because, and it's breaking down now. Yep, you can take this trade. See if I can get into this thing. Sell. Market. And I'll just adjust this. 7 pips. 7 pips. Modify it. Boom. There you are. There's our target. Now I like the idea is I'm gonna take this zone off here just so we can see it a little bit better. Dollar is strong by 3. It's broken through the bottom. Strong by, well, this is strong by 5, 4. Still strong for the dollar US. Broke the wedge. Actually, the alert was actually over here. It did come down, test this. I don't mind. Once it rejects the first point and rejects significantly, I don't mind moving to that next one. Here was a break, moved again. Actually, you could almost even take it down to this one. But you have two a low, a lower low, and a lower low here. Let's see if this how this thing looks here. Spread this out. It's coming up to retest the wedge here. And we'll see what happens. We're 20 minutes into the US Open now. It's coming back up. This is playing almost a little bit like what the Aussie did earlier. Again, we're still looking at it, still at the bottom of this daily box range that we drew out earlier.
What's our potential target if it does break out the bottom?
Yeah, potential target is we're looking at, well, here's the A, so that's the first target, so that's going to be right, that's about right where it is right now. These are pretty flat, so we can just kind of go with that. So let's go to a higher time frame to find it. Let's go over to our 15-minute chart. Actually, the target's going to be breaking out of the box and then could go all the way down to here potentially, but let's just see where it is on a little bird. Let's go to a 1 hour chart and see if we can find something. Here's the bottom right. Here's a bottom right here. This is a little bit of a zone right at the bottom where this A, let's pull the A down to there. I would say that would be the next target. Once it breaks the C area, I would say the A would be the next target area, which you could probably take it down to about like that, which would be 13 pips.
That would be a nice move, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I would say that would be the next spot. We actually have a little anchor. Here's a hit. Here's a hit. This would all be before the wedge, actually. That's on a 1 minute chart or 1 hour chart. At a 15-minute, should be pretty much the same. Anchor, hit, hit. Here was the wedge alert at 9:15. Right down there. And basically using that as a wedge, it hasn't quite broken the bottom of the wedge yet. This is one reason why I don't usually like when you see these real strong angles up. I usually like keeping it down a little bit lower, just because you lose up some pips because if you get the break, but oftentimes though it keeps you out of harm's way, because once it breaks this, then you have a better shot at the better move. But I do like the fact that we have this drop at base spacing, and a lot of times you get a nice down move like this at a basis. If you move your Fibonacci tool, your retracement tool, start from here, take it down to where the bottom of the base was, bring it up to the high of the base, And then your target's down here. And there again, it's right where the A is, right in this area, right here between 78 and 1.
Lines up perfect.
And it lines up perfectly, yeah. So this would be a nice little zone right here for a target. Why is this not there? And I'll make this green. I don't need that label in there. Why is that saying undefined? I'm wondering why that is. Huh. That is that. Weird. Another one of those little quirks of TradingView sometimes. Anyway, that would be the target right there. And again, it coincides with where the pivot is. It coincides with where the end of the box is of the daily box, which is this white area. And this where it could be sort of like that bottom of the move where the daily range is. This started back in August 1st. Test the bottom of the range and then goes back up again. Let's see, it's right now it's we have about 20 more minutes before we're done with this session here. We never did get a break today.
Well, I snuck one in.
Oh,
I ran away from my desk for 2 minutes to get a coffee.
but this is looking like this. I like it when I see it basing just before the break of the wedge. We see like this nice move, comes back right to the wedge, bases, and then once it gets done basing and then you get the break, it usually is a pretty strong break all the way to the downside. So I kind of like this scenario right now. That's on a 15-minute. Let's see what it looks like on a. So again, the dollar is still stronger across the board. Here's our 1 minute chart. We have our moving averages. Let's see where the moving averages are. All of our moving averages are in the correct direction. It looks like it could be real clear sailing. If it breaks the wedge, it should be able to get down there. We were a little bit early on this entry just because I had the wedge drawn differently at the time. Right now, I like this little box. Right now, we have somewhat of a inside candles here. We're not closing below the body of this blue candle on the 15-minute chart. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So I know this is the range is pretty much trading in right now. This is the one I'm concerned about with making sure that it stays within this box. If we get a close outside this, then I'd be more apt to be done with this trade. And I'll move this up just a little bit up in here. This gives you a little bit, nine pips. I'm making it like 10 pip stops a little bit better than 7 just because of getting whipsawed. I like keeping things out of harm's way. Any other quick questions before we start running out of time here? Sorry, I don't get a chance to watch the question and answer box. That's why I have Christine and Eva here with me. I appreciate your help there, guys.
No, of course, anytime.
Oh, good. And Beach, you got your 10 pips on the UJ. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that U.S. yen had a nice little move. Once it broke that wedge, it had a nice little move to the upside.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get in it. I was distracted and I missed it.
It's easy to get distracted.
It sure is.
All right, now this New Zealand is still looking like it wants to break to the downside.
That USD yen looks like it's forming a bit of a wedge on the 5 minute.
Yes, it is. It wants to break out. It's that nice little run up, and it's forming a nice little wedge pattern there. You're right. Let me take a quick peek at that one right now. And we had this nice little move up, and it's still trying to decide how deep it wants to go into this area right here. Unless we can get a close above one of these blue candles along here, we're still going to stay out of this. We're going to either be taking profits or just holding tight. So it came up right up into this area, rejected it, came up again, trying to reject it again. Here's the doji right in this area. Here's the doji that we were talked about last week. These are significant price points of where the battle rages between the buyers and sellers. Meanwhile, back at the New Zealand USD, still trying to break through the bottom of this wedge area. Do have a little trend going down. Right now, I don't want to see a break above this moving average. If it breaks above the 62, actually preferably, I don't want to see a break above this yellow 13 moving average. And this is right now into this little zone right now. Just see what it does. See where it goes.
Al, you'll be happy to hear Beach Panda saying this is the best session ever.
Oh, great.
That she's learned so much, or she or he, I'm assuming it's a she, has learned so much
Well,
today.
I'm glad to hear that. It does me good to hear that people are learning and learning how to trade these things and hopefully being successful. And if you're in demo or if you're in live, just to be able to understand how to read the charts. This is a lot of this session is not so much wedges. I mean, we have the wedge alerts and that's what we're doing. But a lot of the session has to do with learning how to read charts. And we're just using the wedges as an instrument to be able to make that happen.
And just to clarify, Beach Panda's a he.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, he says he's going to memorize this session.
Well, it has been recorded so that we will be able to look it over a few times.
Yeah.
So basically, if we learn nothing other than from these sessions is to, one, to be patient, give the wedge plenty of room. Don't try to be too aggressive with it. I said, I find out even though I give up pips in the process, if I just keep the wedge a little bit more loose, especially when you get these strong moves like this going up, rather than try and run this thing from here to here and looking for the break, you're almost better off and still, because you still have these significant areas. And this is really from the 15-minute, this is still the major trend line. And you really want to make sure that you want it to be breaking the major trend lines, not so much the intermediate trend lines. Look for your anchor, look for that pivot point that comes down to test it. And when you get that third test, that makes this point, that validates this whole trend line. And then once it breaks, then you start looking to see where your A was. If you have a nice little slope coming up, there's still going to be plenty of room for you to make your, and as I said, we're only looking for 7 pips. And if you look from where this C is, you had the A, you had the hit, and here's where the anchor, once you get this break, it's not too unlikely to be able to at least test the A. And if you have your 7 pips there, it's worth taking the trade. And we'll see right now, we're getting the break on this New Zealand, getting a break on the 15. So that means we have it on the 1. Here's the break. Here's where we got, it was very wicky, all the wicks. Now we finally got the close below the wicks, below the wedge, and now we're off to the races. Look where our fib lines are. If we can get some here, there we go. This would be the target right here. I would expect maybe a little bit of a bounce off of that. Let's see how much room we have to that. Here's our wedge. That's only 4 pips, 7 pips. So if we got in on this candle right there, do a short position. Say we got in right, well, we did get in right here. Here's our 7 pips down there. This is just a nice little tool today. I don't use this all the time, but you can just set this, make your 7 pips. You can see where the range is. You know, it has to get through this first. That's significant. You have to get through that. We got this on the right. Yeah, it's still 2 minutes. All of our whole moving averages are red. We have our pivot, our RSIs are below the 40-60 range. Dollar is still strong on both pairs. Dollar is the second pair of the second currency of the pair. If it's showing strength, that means you're looking to go short. And it's either going to give it to us or it's not. But right now, as long as our moving averages are all in alignment, we have our 62, our 13, and our 5. 62, 13, and 5. 62, 13, and 5. All are moving in the right direction. Everything's below the yellow line. And as long as we can keep this price below, I especially like the 5-minute 13. As long as we can keep this price below that and we keep the whole moving averages red, we should be okay to keep, get this target met. And one thing I find out is don't try and pick a top, don't try and pick a bottom, because you're usually going to be wrong anyway. Just go for your target, get your pips. If it gets close to it and starts stalling, just take the profit and be done with it and be happy with it. And that's one of my, every once in a while I will go and I'll try and go for the bigger move, but most of the time when I go for the bigger move, I usually end up being sorry about it. But I say this comes down to this blue line and it starts rejecting it. I'll just close it out and be happy with it. Now this is only about 4 pips, so you may want to just let this one breathe a little bit more. But if you start getting down to where you have your 5 or 7 pips, if I can get 5 pips and it starts rejecting it, I'll just take my 5 pips. But right now, you're still okay to just run this one out a little bit more. We had a nice red candle. This blue candle didn't even come up halfway along the red one. This is probably going to form a little bit of a flag here. We had this blue candle came all the way down, wick down, came back up, and you can see where this red candle came all the way down right to the bottom where that wick was. So all these buyers just got, all the buy orders here just all got chewed up. And now it's a matter of whether or not it's going to break to the bottom here. Right now, there's still no reason to get out of this trade. Again, be willing to let it breathe a little bit. Nice. I would like to keep my stop zone a little bit above up here. So I'm just going to move this stop up a little bit in line with where this, just give it a little bit more room. I want to make sure I can keep it outside this on the other side of where this box is. If I go to a 5-minute chart and I look for, see where a little trend is developing, you can see where it's the trend is actually still pretty much along where this 13 moving average is. That's really where the trend is staying below that. You have a little bit of higher pivot points where you had, there's a high. Let's see. Next, I'm not really seeing any place where it's really rejected it other than right at the very top up here. If we get another strong move up to retest this area, then that would give us another little sloping trend line from here. And you can pretty much align it to this for right now. That's about the best you have to offer. So this is a trend line that you don't want to see get broken. If it breaks this trend line, then you know something's wrong. Something's not, or it's already made its move. But if you ever do catch these really strong moves and you go for those bigger runs, you'll usually see that the price will come up, especially on the 5-minute, will come up. They'll usually tag this, come back down. It may come up and tag in between your 62 and your 13, which is pretty much where we are. Well, we're way below that now. But if you can see where this area keeps widening, that's significant. As you see this thing trending down, if you can see this box, like even up here, you can see where you move this up to, say, this area, and you see where your 62 and your 62 and your 13 are this distance apart, and as you track it on down, you see it gets wider and wider where the yellow is pulling away from it, yellow is pulling away from it. Once it starts getting closer back together, then you can start thinking that maybe the move's getting over, and then you can get out a little bit sooner. Right now, this is at the widest point. Now, if this thing starts breaking in, then you can say, well, maybe this is time to be getting out and take your profit. I'm going to make this purple so you can see the reference on this. And we're just going to keep that from this purple line to the yellow line and just see how, and I'd like to see this yellow one keep getting wider and wider and wider apart. And meanwhile, the US yen is still making new highs for the day. Here was a nice little, came up, kind of tested this a little bit. Once you get into the trades, oftentimes it's better just to go on a higher time frame, like a 5-minute or a 15-minute chart, and see where some of those significant points are. I said we still have this one over here with our C. Right here around the 65.89 area.
Al, Beach Panda's asked you a question.
Oh.
He's saying, so we're looking for a minimum of 7 pips, but we'll gladly take anything beyond that. Does that mean we cancel our take profit and place a floating stop?
That's your choice. I generally don't do that. Normally, if I see, I usually go for the 7 pips. If I'm going to go for more than that, then I'll just watch it candle by candle. And when it starts reversing, when it looks right to me, I just get out of it. You can't, the only time I usually use a floating stop is if I don't have time to be sitting watching it. Then I'll put my stop in, I put my target in, and then I walk away and hope for the best. And that's pretty much what happens, is you're hoping for the best. That's why we say go for your 7 pips and just take a larger lot size. Once you get your 7 pips, and you're done. But that's strictly a personal preference whether or not you want to take I mean, if you feel comfortable taking floating stops, do so. I mean, you can, you'll probably, if you're good at it and you don't get the emotions tied to, if you have the floating stop, it's taking the emotions out. You're just sort of walking away and letting it do its thing. But make sure you have a target in, because if you don't have a target in, you will get stopped out. That would be my suggestion to that. Any other questions? We're just about out of time. Well, if we are out of time here, we need to get close this up. So any other last minute questions before we close up shop today?
That was a really great session.
Yeah, it was a busy session. Sorry, I'm kind of glad when it's busy as opposed to not being busy, but unfortunately, sometimes I have to go a little bit faster than I care to, but in order to cover all the information. So anyway, I thank everybody for coming in, and have a good rest of the day. Stay safe and stay green. On that note,
bye everybody. Have a great day.
And well, thanks again, Eva and Christine, for your help. And we will see everybody. Next time.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm going to be working off my laptop tomorrow, so bear with me as I get used to doing that. But we will be here at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. See you then.
All right. See you then. Bye.